KMO here, back with another video. This one's just a quick follow-up to something I posted a couple of days ago. Picture of me walking across a parking lot talking about antinatalism and how antinatalism as an academic philosophy or field of study doesn't typically come from a place of hating humanity. It typically comes from a place of wanting to avoid unnecessary suffering. But a lot of people are attracted to the idea that humans shouldn't have children because humans are terrible. And so there's this sort of disconnect between the vast, well, I don't know about the vast majority, but a sizable section of the people who are enthusiastic about the topic and the conclusions of an antinatalist philosophy, and the people who are actually doing some serious thinking about that philosophy. And I just want to read a few comments that I got here. One, Vladimir says, "Amen to that, brother. Antinatalism is a satanic death cult that intends on rejecting humanity." Well, Vladimir, if you watch this channel or listen to my podcasts or read the comics that I do or basically follow my thinking at all, you'll know that I'm typically not making broad brush categorical statements that dismiss whole groups of people out of hand with such a simplistic just gesture of rejection. It's not what I'm about. But, you know, whatever, dude. This is the main one I wanted to read. Scott Message. Scott writes, "Yes, different philosophies and religions attract many different types of people. Some will understand what is being said. Some will misinterpret it and use it as justification for the perversion of what is being said. This has been happening throughout history. Why should antinatalism be any different?" Okay, this is an example of what I call categorize and dismiss. Now, we all have given thought to certain ideas in the past. We've devoted some amount of time and effort and cognitive capacity to deciding whether or not something is worthy of continued investigation or whether it's something we can just write off. So, for example, I'm not particularly interested in the flat earth hypothesis, and I don't feel any particular duty to continue digging into it to make sure there isn't some core of really valid critical examination going on that I've missed so far. I don't intuit that there's anything there worth investigating. So if somebody starts talking and my brain says, flat earther, I feel I don't hesitate at all to just categorize them and dismiss it as not worth my time. But what's going on here? Scott says, people become attracted to certain belief systems for various reasons, and the people who don't really understand the belief system to start with and misinterpret it, they then go on to pervert it. This has been happening throughout history. Why should antinatalism be any different? Well, let's change the subject just a little bit and take this form of argument just to, explore. Suppose I say, I have uncovered evidence that in my town, people who represent me in elected politics are taking money from an interest which I think puts them in a conflict of interest. I think that them taking money from this particular source is in conflict with their duty to perform right by me and my neighbors here in our local municipality. Well, what if somebody in defense of the local official says, well, look, corruption has been an issue throughout history with all forms of government. Why should it be any different here? Well, it should be different here because this is where I am. This is the realm in which I operate. This is the thing in which I take an interest. These are the people with whom I am associated in sharing this interest and examining things, from a perspective of deciding collectively what's right, what's wrong, what we should do, what we should avoid. It's relevant because I'm in it right now. And the fact that other people have had to grapple with similar issues in the past doesn't mean that in this instance, it isn't worth thinking about. So back to Scott's comment. Some will misinterpret it and use it as justification for the perversion of what is being said. This has been happening throughout history. Why should antinatalism be any different? End on a question. I take this to be a rhetorical question saying there's no reason why antinatalism should be any different. Therefore, this isn't a question that we should really have to think about. Well, you don't have to think about it if you don't want to. But I think if you're interested in antinatalism, you should probably be interested in who it appeals to and why. Because the people who gravitate to your conclusions and take up your banner are going to color other people's opinion of your movement, of your banner, when they see a particular type of person brandishing that banner, flying it and saying, yay, I'm for antinatalism, and then going on to say something which really doesn't have a whole lot to do with the more thoughtful varieties of antinatalism. But what sticks in the minds of the people they encounter? Bad behavior, claiming the mantle of antinatalism. It's worth thinking about. Okay, and finally, antinatalism can come from numerous angles, one of which is pure compassion and mercy. Let me just say that, yes, I agree. The prevention of suffering. Consult Thomas Ligotti's Conspiracy Against the Human Race. Well, I've spoken about that book at length in other videos, so that advice I have taken preemptively. Biting back. All right. Finally, Biting Back says, we are selfish shits. It's in our DNA to be shits. The best case scenario for a human being is one constantly fighting its own nature. It's ridiculous. Well, Biting Back, I mean, you may have invoked the scientific concept of deoxyribonucleic acid, aka DNA, but that doesn't make this notion that we are selfish shits and it's in our DNA to be selfish shits, it doesn't become a scientific fact. In fact, what we are, at base, the way that we survive in the world is cooperatively. Human beings cooperate with one another on a scale and at a level of complexity matched by no other type of life that we know of. Cooperation is who we are deep down, and it is within that matrix of cooperation, that guaranteed bedrock of humans cooperating with one another to enhance their own individual survival prospects, that we then get the parasites operating, in this environment of basic trust and cooperation. So yeah, human parasitism is a problem, but it doesn't mean that it is a defining feature of who we are psychologically, evolutionarily, biologically. It's just not true that our DNA makes us shits. It's simply not true. And it is contrary to all the available evidence that surrounds you all day, every day. Okay, I'll stop there. Thanks for listening. I will talk to you more soon.